Oh, welcome to Paris. We are here in Paris, where the women are fine and the baguettes are hot and the accordions sing. Beautiful. Good intro.
Melodies.
This is Coprolalia, a podcast with me, Raph, and Giles.
Me.
Or Reverend Giles. What are we? A couple of artsy boys.
Yeah.
Couple of artsy boys from Australia.
Yeah.
And we make cartoons and other silly little thingies on Instagram and other places on Facebooks. And we're going to talk about some bullshit. We're here on top of the Eiffel Tower today.
Yeah, sitting right on the tip. Or at least like on a ledge next to the tip, not the tip directly under our butts, if you know what I'm saying.
Is it a pointy tip? I can't remember. Can't think of it now. I'm gonna have a.
I'm sure it's like a radio antenna or some shit like that.
True.
Well,
yeah.
We're looking right at it, so
well, yeah, I can absolutely see.
Yeah, it's an antenna of some sort.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Giles, how are you doing today? Is the first question, I think.
Terribly.
Talk about it. Tell me why you're not good.
Because the world seems to act in an unpredictable way, and I seem ill-equipped to even comprehend any of it. So
that's just no good. It's no fun for you. Oh, it looks like we've just had a bloody French tourist rock up, or perhaps an Australian tourist. I'm not sure yet. We're going to find out when they speak to us. Hi. Can't tell the accent from that. That's
how'd you get this high up?
We're on the Eiffel Tower. I mean, as
really
you're extremely aware.
Apparently, I've just been up here. There's something below. I don't know.
There's a whole world out there. Giles is and the illusion is complete. Giles is just telling us how he has a zero grasp on reality, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A perfect pure psychosis.
That's good for art.
Yeah, for sure. It's like I'm exaggerating. Obviously, when you asked me how I was doing, I decided to just go on a tangent about and exaggerate that it was terrible, but things aren't that bad. Why
is it? This just kind of brings to mind. I think it was a Facebook post. Maybe I was chatting to someone. Life is very confusing in this day and age. I can't remember what I've read online, or if I read it in a paper, if I talked to someone.
You can just know that, I swear.
Pardon?
It's like, you can just know that. You don't need to read it.
No what?
Does that make sense?
What? No, what? No.
You can,
I haven't said what I know yet.
You said that life is confusing in this day and age.
Oh, yeah, no, I knew that. That's an observation I've made. Okay, so it doesn't matter.
What the fuck are you saying?
Yeah, I'm getting to the point. I'm getting to what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is I saw a thing. It was just discussing something I've thought of before anyway. Of just people are obsessed with artists being miserable, depressed, and usually a bit, if not entirely, insane. Why is that, in your opinion? I mean, I think
we've already talked about this. However, I think I think people's Wait, are you asking the tourist, and I'm just interrupting right now?
No, you go for it.
We'll all give our own responses.
I think the deeper you sink, the more like shit that you've got to use in your art potentially.
Oh yeah. So
it's possible that through hardship, because people do grow through hardship. There's a chance that just like the more hardship you've grown, or like passed through, the more tools and the more reference material you have for art.
Or maybe it's that people are trying to justify why they're depressed and they're not actually trying to help themselves. Because they're like, well, at least I create good art. I have to be miserable. And then the people who aren't artists have an excuse because they're clearly happy and they just can't be as miserable. So they can't be as artistic or creative.
Yeah, I know people who are they identify so strongly with how sad they are that they wouldn't begin to make themselves happy even if they had the opportunity.
Exactly, because then what worth do they have?
I agree.
That's like...
get rid of them.
There's so much...
That's not what I meant.
Depressed people, we should just kill them. Clearly.
Well, we don't have to kill them. They can just do it for us.
Oh my gosh.
Is this where you wanted to go?
I'll admit I'm having difficulty trying to form my opinions because I've got like 3 different versions of my voice that I'm hearing in my head.
Oh yeah, we can turn that off.
That sounds like
that's
a
not something
psychosis.
that's just constant?
Yeah, that happens on the Eiffel Tower, but I have a fix for it. We'll just do that.
Does this mean I'm going to lose my creativity?
Pardon?
Now that I'm not hearing multiple voices?
It might hurt it.
At least you can use the experience of having several voices as reference for some of your art now. What it was like to live with 3 voices in my head. do a big art painting.
Turns out it was just an effect on the computer.
I think I saw. I think there was a woman who had. Is it schizophrenia? Is that what it is when you have multiple? No, something else. That's something entirely different.
Schizophrenia can have that, but schizophrenia is a really wide-ranging condition.
Well, nonetheless, I saw a woman who had multiple personality disorder. I think it is, and but I think all of them were artists, and they all had like different takes on the same kind of things that they were going through, but they didn't realize that the others existed or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know what else to go. I don't know what else to say about that. Just find it interesting and it kind of plays into what we're talking about.
Someone posted on Reddit once. They were talking about how they had some posters in their room, and each poster had a different personality, and they would talk to the posters essentially.
Yeah, right.
And if one got out of hand, like it would sometimes tell them to rip down the other 2 posters or
Jesus
or whatever. And yeah, just. That's an unfortunate condition to be stuck with.
I wonder if this love of thinking artists are insane or have to be depressed or something. It's like the idea that they have to be of another mind. They have to be of almost of another world. Like they're not like the rest of us. Either, as was already said, as an excuse why they're not doing, why they're not painting masterpieces. Or is it just more so of just like humans' fascination with altering their perception of reality, and they're just obsessed with other people's random weird perceptions of reality? Like we're obsessed with serial killers, for example.
Yeah, I think there's a fascination with the amount that we can identify with those kind of people. It's possible that an artist takes it upon themselves to investigate emotion. Yeah. And the only real emotion I think people can just like willingly evoke is to just make themselves miserable. I think it's a lot harder to make yourself happy and then explore happiness.
Yeah. Pharrell Williams does a pretty good job.
Fuck Pharrell.
I mean, obviously because of his song Happy, but besides
this is an anti-Pharrell podcast.
There are exactly 0 hats and exactly 0 feelings of joy experience here.
This is an anti-happy podcast.
I was just going to say that I've been listening to this band, Cara Cara Bonito, a lot because it makes me feel super duper happy. And all the lyrics are really positive. And then I just realized that the lyrics on their latest EP are really depressing. And it's just really happy songs. No, it's still kind of positive. Cool. But it's just sort of like singing about how you're only acting and that, like, what was it? One of them is like singing about how you know how it is when you're walking down the street and everyone thinks you're happy, but on the inside you're just tearing up and you just want to cry.
Yeah,
and I was singing along to it going, wait, what? I know how it is. Yeah.
I get the opposite. I actually think it'd be quite nice to be perceived as happy, unless you really wanted someone to ask if you were doing all right, and they didn't because you looked like you were really happy. But I try and talk to people about migraines, and it's a really depressing thing to talk about, but I'm not miserable while I talk about it. And so people do think like, oh shit, this guy's really miserable, isn't he? And it's like, no, I have a pretty good sense of humor about it by now.
Yeah. In fact, by talking about it, it's probably a lot easier to be optimistic about it.
Yeah. I think I've peaked out the optimism I can manage.
I don't know.
A healthy realism is what I have, which is that it sucks, but I'm not going to slow myself down.
Yeah.
That's good.
You still got a podcast, baby.
Thanks, baby.
I don't know which one's worse, like being asked or being perceived as happy when you're miserable, or being perceived miserable when you're happy. I assume.
I'll tell you why it's better to be happy. No matter how you're perceived, if two people are happy and they both think that the other is miserable, that's a preferable alternative to both being miserable and thinking the other two are happy.
True.
That's what I think.
I mean, being happy is better. So I think that answers that's the question. Regardless of how people are perceiving you.
Not if you want to be an artist, though.
True.
No one will take you seriously if you genuinely love what you do.
Yeah.
It's like a resume. If it should say on your art piece, like, 6 years of sadness experience.
That's another thing, is we're supposed to hate our art. And I mean, besides the obvious, and here we go. Guess who's coming up in this conversation is Kanye West. And Star Wars. I'll mention that as well. Get it out of the way. Star Wars is bad. Kanye West. You just have to mention. Well, we have to mention both in every podcast. It seems.
Yeah, true.
But Kanye West, like, everyone freaks out when he goes, "I love my music. I'm the best. I'm the best music that there is."
No, he don't say that. That's Khaled.
Yeah, Khaled says, "We the best music." That's his fucking label, "We the best music." I mean, besides the grammatical errors, it's just a bad fucking name.
He's not from America, is he? He's like from the Middle East or something.
Of Middle Eastern descent, yeah. He's.
No, he grew up in Miami or something like that.
I want to say, DJ Khaled we should start bringing him up as well. Kanye and Khaled.
No,
we need to know that we need to
fade away.
We should always talk about Khaled, Kanye, and who's another K?
Khalifa.
DJ Khaled, Kanye West, and Wiz Khalifa. Welcome back to KKK.
And they're all like they've all got darker skin, and the fact it's some dark parallels going on right now.
He's American. I think he's. Where was he born? He was born in New Orleans. To Palestinian parents. There you go. Yeah, Khaled.
So it was American or like English that was spoken in his household, I assume.
Yeah.
Just because "We the best music" is just not grammatically correct at all.
No.
And neither is like a bunch of his lyrics, I think.
Yeah, there's some stuff in there. However, that's also that's probably a discussion around dialect rather. Like,
Oh yeah.
When people correct like children who speak in a let's say a more urban version of English, and people correct them. It's like, no, but that's how that group of people talk. So that's actually not. That's how language works. Language develops and changes depending on the people. So it's not. Yeah. It's not incorrect. It's just a different dialect. I don't know. I said the word already, but I think that's correct.
Have I showed you the Pidgin English BBC page?
Yes, it's my favorite thing.
That's
so much fun. It's one of those things like you feel like you shouldn't laugh at it. I'm not laughing at it in terms of.
No,
I think it's silly.
You.
It's just I think it's just objectively funny to read as an English speaking person.
Because they say da poo poo. Da poo poo.
You can't not laugh.
Wife they get mad because they poo poo. Yeah, it's actually like that though. I'm not messing around.
Yeah.
I actually quite like the way that Jamaican people talk. Well, the different dialects anyway. There's a word that I found recently, which is livicated.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the opposite, or not the opposite, but like, if dedicated is like to be dedicated to someone is like attached and like serious about it.
Yeah.
Livicated is like the living version of the dedicated. So if you're livicated, it's like I'm livicated to you.
That's so good.
I love it. I think that's great. I'm not dedicated. I'm livicated.
I think I can only hear Hermes from Futurama. I think I don't know what that means. I guess that's just my introduction to the to the culture. I think it's a white guy doing that. Actually, I know it is. Who does that voice?
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's the guy who does. Who is that Simpsons voice?
Hank Azaria?
Mo? Yeah, the guy who does Mo.
It could be Hank Azaria.
Let me search that name. Hank Azaria?
Yeah, Azaria.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah, he does Hermes.
No way.
Yeah, man. Pretty sure.
He's so good.
Does he? Oh, now.
Yeah, I think he just made that up.
I'm not sure.
Hermes.
Oh dear, I might have misquoted. How do you spell?
With an E.
Yeah, Hermes. Hermes Futurama. Played by different person. Don't worry about it.
And he's black.
There you go.
by a black guy. Yeah, cool. So
good
this
one,
has been
Ray.
Coprolalia. We'll catch you next time on race on podcast KKK. Jesus, offensive episode so far.
Yeah, we did make a joke about suicide just a moment ago.
True. Cool. Leave a comment in the comment section below why you're offended by it, and
we will respond respectfully.
Yeah, we'll read out any comments. At this point, that doesn't take much of an episode up. So yeah, please comment, and we'll read out your comments next episode, and we'll respond very thoughtfully. What was my point about Kanye? I had a thing I was going to say about Kanye. That was
just
really
about
important.
how people.
We the best people.
How you're not meant to love your art.
Yeah.
Yet Kanye loves his art.
I think,
but it's seen as arrogant.
Yeah. And I've spoken about this as well. In comparison to also how Australians act towards art, which I think is very different as well. And I've spoken to I had many conversations with the jazz playing Triceratops, I think it was, that we were hanging out with a few episodes back. Yeah, he also is from Australia, funnily enough, and from this time period. It's a whole It all makes sense if you.
Are you destroying the canon of that episode?
No, it's all canon, baby. There's just like maybe there's some
other. He
other.
has his own time traveling device.
Yeah, simple, easy, done. There you go. Canon restored.
His saxophone allows him to travel through time.
Yes, with a very particular melody that he plays.
Yeah.
He plays Sexy Sax Man and he travels through time. Fuck, what am I talking about? Yeah. So,
humility, like
yeah,
humility and
is that ironic for a dinosaur to feel humility?
I think you have to sort of love what you're doing to some level. I think it's impossible to have the
but it's about admitting it. If you admit it, you're arrogant.
Yeah.
If you don't, then you're just not gonna get anywhere because you're not promoting your work and no one's gonna take
or you're
it
not
seriously.
confident in it.
Yeah.
and people can like feel that or read that.
Yeah.
It's just as simple as I think I've said this before, but yeah, you just don't shit on other people's work. If you say my work is the best out of everybody's, if I'm doing the best work that can possibly be done, if no one can
people
best
are gonna
me,
get mad at you.
Yeah, then fuck you, fuck that guy. But if you just, I love my work, I'm really happy with my work, I think it sounds or looks amazing and it's perfect to me. But everyone else can also do equally as good things, and I'm not putting it on a ladder or a hierarchy. Which maybe Kanye does do. He certainly says he's the... Does he say he's the best rapper?
No.
Not sure
the most impactful artist of his generation.
That's probably just true, though, right?
Look,
who knows?
He said it, so I kind of believe it, right?
Who else could possibly claim that in this generation, in this era, little bit? Maybe Kendrick will get there at some point. Actually, no,
Donald
I don't
Trump,
think
so.
Maybe. Is he an artist though? We're talking most influential artist.
He's a
con artist,
a body language artist.
Is he? I guess so.
A con artist.
Was his book called Art of the Deal?
Yeah.
I guess he's done something. I mean, I guess you could call that art.
Was Steve Jobs a part of Kanye's generation?
I don't know. I guess so.
Maybe he means living.
Well, let's Google. Let's talk about them. Well, that I guess that, like, talking about terms of time period when they're kind of hitting their peak of influence, and Apple certainly kind of hit their peak of influence maybe like what 5 years ago, somewhere in there.
No way.
Before that.
As if the technology isn't still currently pushing things forward.
Yeah, but would you say it's
they're going to be right there
when
the technology is like VR glasses and stuff? They're going to be right there.
I don't think they're as widely popular. I mean, no, I guess they would. They're still growing in terms of numbers, but I don't know. In terms of the actual influence and respectability, I think it's gone down since Steve Jobs died.
The smartphone came from them, and like iPods,
yeah, of course,
and all kinds of shit. Yeah, okay. If you're talking about right now, yeah, Apple doesn't really seem to be ahead of the curve, but rather just treading water.
Yeah, definitely.
But so is Kanye, is he not? Just treading water? Like, I don't think he's...
His last 5... Well, this little series of 5 short releases I'm pretty impressed with. But yeah, I don't think... Okay, he's actually got a pretty big influence at the moment due to his online presence, which is kind of part of his art, in a way, is to control people's hype and control people's reaction. Does that make sense?
Control or just
play into?
I don't know.
Banging track.
I honestly don't think that much about Kanye West, to be honest. I did for a while, but not anymore.
I am definitely that person who brings him up every time I get drunk. He always finds a way into my conversation.
Me too.
Just a good example. Just always a good talking point. Everyone, no one hasn't got an opinion. Everyone's always ready to get into it. If they hate him or love him or don't even care, they actively don't care.
Yeah, active indifference.
Anyway, well, we're working on Kanye. What else you got for me?
Maybe we can bring it back around to the topic of the art that we were discussing.
Yeah. What were we discussing?
Okay, let's see. I'm gonna try and backtrack. Just rewind my brain for a moment.
I think I've got a thing for... Hang on, let me... Can I...
So why were we talking about...
Yeah, go on.
Why were we talking about artists needing to suffer, or like it being a good thing that they suffer?
I don't think
why that came up?
I don't think it's a good thing. Was it due to your pain?
Maybe.
I think it was due to your pain, and people just expect artists to suffer. It's just an argument that I saw come up recently that we talked about.
Yeah, maybe we should just like talk about something new.
Sure. All I can think of is I found a new confidence recently, which I'm really excited about.
Hell yeah.
I don't know if it's part of growing up, which I was hoping would be done by now, but obviously no.
It seems to me like every time someone arrives at being more confident, they've got no reason to go backwards.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Like,
we're all in agreement.
In some ways, it can be called growing because it's just a forward movement. The more confidence, the more like happy and content you feel. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just from my own personal example, something that I've always wanted to do is to rap and make hip-hop music. I've made a bit of hip-hop music electronically, but I haven't really rapped before, not at least in places where people can hear me do so.
Would you say that you find Kanye West as an inspiration to you?
Yes. Musically, maybe not as much so. I would like to be inspired by him more musically, but I find not much of what he does comes through in my own sound.
Yeah, right.
I don't know why. I don't know where most of my sound comes from. I've noticed that a lot of my sound comes from stuff I think I must have heard as a kid. Like lots of weird nostalgic kind of like 70s and 80s style guitars and keys and always like washed out muted kind of sounds that whenever I put it all together I'm like, this sounds like... It almost sounds like something Dad would have listened to in a way. Like, it not something he would listen to, but there's that aesthetic sonically is still there. And I don't know what that is. I guess it's just nostalgia.
Are you happy for that influence to happen?
Yes, I just need to find a way of kind of updating it into a more of a modern setting, I think.
Yeah, well, country... would you say bluegrass and stuff like that is his sort of taste?
Yeah.
Does that translate into hip-hop and electronic music very well?
No, not musically in terms of chord structures and rhythms and stuff like that, but again, the aesthetics of it, like that's just the general sound of like... I'm thinking more like... I don't know how to describe it. I guess like more like prog rock and stuff like that from the 70s and 80s that Dad would have listened to. And also jazz from that era as well. So I would kind of like a loungy, warm vibe that... Uh-huh.
Do you have an ideal listening scenario or like ideal listening... atmosphere or environment
for my own music or to listen to music in general?
Yeah, do you picture your music in an environment?
Do you picture it being listened to at all?
I don't know if I want to talk about my music anymore.
No, I think that's a great question. How do you think people would best appreciate your music? In what listening experience?
I think this was my issue when I was making more house music, because I was kind of struggling between, because I was trying to play gigs and I was meeting with some people who were playing not house music but electronic dance music nonetheless, and I was making tracks while also doing a few DJ sets and seeing what they were doing and listening to more house music by myself. and was thinking like, oh shit, I need to make sure these things fucking hit harder because they need to work on the dance floor, or they need to be banging in the club, or fucking whatever. But then I was thinking that that's not where I listen to house music. I like house music in those settings to a degree, but the place I listen to it the most is in headphones on trains or just on the stereo while I'm cooking dinner. And so then that allowed me to then make house music for that setting where it's the kicks aren't as pronounced as they could be, and things are a bit more washed out, and they take longer to move around, Progressions are slower.
So I personally think it's best not to be at odds with that. So what I'm saying is, if you are making it for someone to listen to on a train, don't compromise it so that it's also really good to be listened to at the club. Because then I think it becomes muddied about whether that person thinks it's right to listen to it on the train or right to play it in the club. It just ends up in neither place, potentially.
There's one artist called Milo who I don't know if you would have heard of him. He makes me think of more like almost like the stereotypical images in my head of like of a poet sitting with like a notebook with one of those silly hats on. I don't know what you call them. Poet hats. You know what I'm talking about? Chimney sweeper kind of things. And a black turtleneck, and just reading on a chair in a dusty
I can
in a
picture
dusty
the turtleneck.
quiet
I don't know
club.
what the poet hat is.
Doesn't matter. He doesn't have to wear a hat.
Oh, wait. Poet hat. Do you mean like those...
Like
they're
a
like
beret.
Jazz musician hats?
A beret, kind of, right?
Oh, beret. Okay.
It almost surely is.
You could have said French.
Huh?
You could have said French.
Yeah. I didn't think of it until now.
Poet hat.
It's like a pretentious poet hat.
Oh, poet hat. I did say that.
Poet hat. Yeah.
What do you want from me? Shut up. It feels more like a guy kind of just speaking poetry over these beats, which I really, really like. I think that plays a setting that I'm more interested in. I like going to bed on time. I don't want to go out to clubs, and I don't want to drive down the road in a Ferrari throwing money at people randomly while bitches bounce their booties in the back of my... ran out of B words.
The back of my butt.
Bitches bouncing booties in the back of my bus.
Sitting between the back seat and my butt.
This rap career is gonna go so good.
You know
In
what,
fact,
though?
if you don't have immodest goals, how can you be a rapper?
You know what, though? I reckon it definitely, like, knowing how you want people to listen to your music is really good. But since it is something that is very intimate and personal, you can never really know if people are listening to it or actually engage them to listen to it. Because I definitely enjoy most music on my own when I am walking down the street or just lying in bed, and I can actually take it in. So I guess that's why, I don't know, for any of my own music, it's not something I would ever encourage anyone to listen to in that way.
Full stop. Well, don't listen to it.
No. Well, that's not the point. The point is it's something that you experience in a performance, but then that kind of already makes sure there are people there who are engaged in it and involved in it. So I know people will get something from it, which is just a nice little bit of, I don't know, validation, I guess. Is that...
Well, it's super nice to see an audience directly reflecting off of the art that you're making.
But I mean, I also think that if you're going to make something and try and get people to a performance, there needs to be a reason for it to be performed live. And I definitely feel like in today's world, it's really hard to find that reason because, I don't know, I find a lot of live music can be very boring because it doesn't take into account the audience or It just doesn't give context. A lot of people go to concerts because they already know of someone and they have been promoting their album, and this is like a bonus to see them live. Whereas for smaller artists, it's never going to be the perfect setting to get people to listen to your music, because if you think the best way for them to listen to it is on their own with headphones, having that chance to listen properly, then I don't know.
there are so many introverts who get into music, and then when it comes time to perform it on stage, their version of a show, and like I'm guilty of this too, the version of a show is actually just standing there and performing it with no no dancing, no theatrics.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just straight faced. They just play it like the recording.
And
they're probably wondering to themselves, like, why am I doing this?
Yeah, but some people still really appreciate it, but I also kind of feel like it's because they feel like they've been told to appreciate it. But I mean, we all have witnessed people playing music now. No one's really playing, there's nothing new. It's still a person behind an instrument or behind a microphone or behind a desk doing something.
I've noticed a whole lot of things to appreciate about seeing someone live. I watched this one person. Have you heard of James Taylor?
Yeah.
I watched a live performance of his on YouTube, and during the song, there's like a part where he says, "Won't you look down upon me, Jesus?" And he actually looks up while he sings that line, and something about that just like made me realize he's really into what he's doing, and that actually got me more engaged with the song and like what it means to him and like what the emotion of that moment is.
I guess that's then another side of it is you need to be fully invested and genuine when you're performing, because people just being sincere and honest, and that's when I think people performing really conventionally can still be really powerful, because people just like to see people who are enjoying what they do and being super honest. But you can't really teach that, which is the problem. People try to teach that. Schools try to teach that, and then it just turns into acting in a way.
Well, they just teach them how to be them.
Do they?
No, I mean like teachers will teach
to be them to be the teacher.
What they know. Yeah.
Just like, teachers are teaching kids to be themselves. No.
Sounds like a dream.
That sounds perfect.
I think certain styles, this isn't a hard fixed rule, but there are certain styles that work better live. Like I think singer-songwriter material does work really good live, usually because it's a lot simpler. It can just be guitar and vocals, or piano and vocals, or bagpipes and vocals, whatever you want. That one wouldn't work very well. And it's much more emotion based, and everyone is usually quiet, and that's a setting where I like it being a kind of a stage, usually a smaller venue, stage, audience, simple, and then you just enjoy the emotion pouring out of this person. Jazz, for the most part, I like it when they're in the corner, pushed to the side, preferably turn the lights off, don't show them, keep them
and
out,
playing
keep them
quietly so you can drink your cocktails and chat to your friends. It's perfect. It's great.
While I listen to them, that's perfect.
That sounds like an unideal stage for the jazz musician.
I'm absolutely taking the piss a bit there.
So, like...
Look, if they knew how to do backflips while still playing, then maybe I would go and see them just for them.
Some jazz bands do a really good job, though. Some jazz bands who play more... Well, there's, like, different styles of jazz as well, obviously, but, like, more more upbeat, I guess party styles of jazz work really well on a stage where people get to dance around them and stuff like that. That kind of works really well. But yeah, there's just like there's this kind of accepted setup that it's supposed to always be stage, audience, and there's just this kind of barrier between them and this setup that you're supposed to adhere to that doesn't actually suit a lot of setups and a lot of styles of music. And a lot of performers. And one that really comes to mind is producers. As you said, a lot of people get into music as introverts. one of them, and I don't want to get up on stage and perform my electronic music that I've produced, because it's exactly the same as you'd hear on the record or the recording or whatever you want. And it's better listening to it through better speakers in your own time. But let's even take someone like Skrillex, who makes bangers. I'm not a big fan, but nonetheless, like, that's a perfect example of someone who makes bangers. But who cares? We don't have to go and see Skrillex. Let a DJ who knows how to perform and knows how to mix tracks and knows how to create an entire party in a night, let them play the Skrillex tracks, and let Skrillex stay inside and produce in the dark with the lights turned off.
I get
Keep
you.
hide him away. Just hide away these people. Some people
I reckon Skrillex would have preferred that too. And when I think about it, even like Avicii, who is now deceased.
Who is that? Eve. How do you spell that?
Avicii. Avicii.
Yep. Gotcha.
He was a DJ or a like just an electronic music producer.
Oh, he died so young.
Sorry?
He died so young.
Yeah. So
How old?
28.
And it was suicide too.
Oh man.
And so I think it's the I think it was the lifestyle. The electronic music producer, DJ, festival bullshit.
Yeah.
Probably just wrecked his mental health.
Yeah. It's it's just it seems just so dirty. It seems like for a lot of these people who get huge doing this kind of stuff, like people who produce music in a studio, usually by themselves or with a small group of people, and then a record company says, "Hey, we got to get you on stage." I'm like, no, but what? I'm not going to. What am I going to do with this? What am I going to do with a pre-recorded song? And
yeah, especially if it's from 7 years ago, and the crowd is just going nuts because it doesn't matter what they're listening to. They're probably on MDMA and they've also traveled 6 hours to a weird part of the country, so that they're gonna enjoy it anyway. And he, like you were saying, you keep going.
Well, yeah, I read an article about this years ago about like a lot of big DJs, a lot of big producers, especially in the EDM scene, would produce works, put them up on SoundCloud, just do that. They'd be bedroom producers, and when they blew up, they would actually have to learn to DJ solely to go out and perform these tracks live. And that shits me because, well, for one, those festival sets, where everyone's on MDMA and other shit like that, not to discredit that, like that's the whole point of those festivals. It's a party. These EDM and electronic festivals and doofs and what have you, they're parties. And in that setting, what I want to see is a DJ who their skill set is to hold a party together, is to play the right tracks at the right time, put together a party. And the producer is not necessarily the person to be doing that. They made a track, and then the other person puts it into context. I actually think it's a real kind of a beautiful relationship between those two. Yeah. But yeah, just forcing these people to go in and to DJ is absurd.
Do you think that comes into another fact that if you're not doing everything yourself, people take you less seriously?
Yeah,
and
totally.
There's a lot of criticism if you can't do it all yourself.
Yeah, people fucking love that shit. Look at Kevin Parker of Tame Impala. People lose their fucking shit because Kevin Parker produced all the music. Like, so? I mean, that's just the way he works. That's not saying it's better. It's not saying he's a genius or more so of a genius than someone who can fit their role perfectly in a band.
And working together is, having a group of people that do work together, is really incredible. But it's
really hard.
Yeah, it is.
It's probably a harder skill to acquire to be able to work with people well than it is to produce an album on your own.
And Prince sort of sucked.
Hot take. Go on. I agree with this statement, but go on.
Prince is one of those I can do absolutely everything because I'm so amazing kind of guys.
Look, even Kanye doesn't do everything by himself.
He doesn't do anything.
No.
Anything.
Do anything.
He shares all of the responsibility of the singing and the samples. he arranges things, and then he occasionally gives himself a verse.
Yeah.
Nah, he obviously is a talented guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Felt like I had to just clarify that.
I think people know our stance on Kanye. I don't think we don't need to worry too much.
I don't know my stance on Kanye.
Comparing Kanye to Kendrick, because Kendrick doesn't, as far as I know, Kendrick doesn't produce beats. He doesn't play any instruments as far as I'm aware. I think I've heard him tinker on a bass before, in one particular track. But he's a rapper, and he has a kind of, I would guess he's conceptual, so he puts the albums together, he pieces it all together, he takes all these like jigsaw pieces of artists and producers and brings them into a coherent project. That is that's a whole nother skill set to mastermind an entire project like that. Something is conceptual and is on such a grand scope as To Pimp a Butterfly. To put that together with lots of other people taking part in the production is another skill set that is highly underrated, I guess, outside of people who know how music works and how art works. People love to hear that, one person did it. I guess that plays into the insane thing again, because I guess everyone still loves that idea of a weird
It'll become cliche. Like, oh, he did everything himself. Like, yeah, but these guys are all geniuses at their own instrument, so... Somehow more quality will come out of the individual performances.
And as I do, and when it comes to my music and most of all my art, I pretty much do all of it myself anyway. But I prefer the attitude of like, I'm kind of doing it because I have to at the moment, but the dream is to be able to have enough money to get someone else who's better at a particular thing to come in and do a better version of it.
Yeah, and the art of filmmaking is actually a good example of that.
Yeah.
In filmmaking, you can't do it all yourself. Like, give it your best shot. You can't do it.
Yeah.
You can't play every character. You can't be behind the camera and also in front of the camera. You can't.
Had a technical difficulty. Edit.
Yeah. If you're making a film, you hire someone to help you with the costumes. You hire someone to help you with the set design. Mm-hmm. You hire someone to help edit, or at least completely edit it.
Mm-hmm.
It is something you can get into, having a passion for all aspects of film. However, it is always going to help you create something grander and more fleshed out with collaboration with other people. So I don't. When someone thinks to themselves, "I want to make a movie," they don't think, "Oh, me myself alone." They think, "I will have to get a team together and help me make it."
Yeah. This is also a reason why Marvel films are so fucking all over the shop. Actually, Marvel's a bad example because Marvel is actually pretty decent. I would say they're arguably technically good films. But something like DC comics or fucking movies, DC movies, as well as lots of other blockbusters that just like fall flat on their fucking face. And everyone's like, "Oh, look at them! They made a bullshit, stupid ass movie, and it's bad. Let's talk about how bad it is." It's like, you try making a movie of this scale with this much money. Our guest has access to the little tiny keyboard.
I'm scary.
Try making a movie of that scale with that much money, with that many people, all... You know the term too many cooks? Imagine 200 cooks trying to make a DC film.
More than 200, man. There'd be 200 in the animation department alone.
Yeah, true. Ugh, what a bloody nightmare. And then Batfleck comes in and says... I don't know what...
I don't want to play the Batman. Too bad, kid. Basically, 600 people have a job because you're willing to stand in front of that lens.
Yeah.
This is the real essence of Coprolalia.
This is what we've wanted it to be this entire time. I'm really just talking until we have an excuse to just listen to tiny keyboards for an hour.
That was so
anticlimactic.
It's such a dramatic noise, isn't it?
Yeah.
Have you seen Reggie Watts?
Yeah.
There's a Spatial, I think is the name of the show.
Yeah. His Netflix comedy special.
Yeah, he uses an OP1.
Oh, he does, doesn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, and he shows the drum kit and like he uses the kick and he's like, this kick sounds like the softest punch possible.
Yeah. The OP1 is fucking expensive as all shit, but it's so much fun. I love, especially in the world of like music and stuff like that, when people just make products that are absurd and are just designed to be cool beyond all belief.
Yeah.
Like, you can do all this. You can do this with a door or with. I mean, like. I meant that as like an audio program, like a digital audio workstation. That's the shorthand, but this sounds way funnier if I just say, hey, you can do this all with a door.
You can slam it softly or hard. Works as a kick.
Huh?
What?
Slamming a door.
Kanye comes in and says, guys, instead of all this shit,
I'ma slam the door.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, go on.
Huh? I was just gonna say you can make all these sounds with a saw.
Uh-huh.
Huh.
Huh.
It's like
I'm just trying to promote myself. I identify as a sawist now.
Sawist.
Sawist.
I had a pun to say, but it's actually just like offensive either way.
Go on.
No, I can't. Like, I can't actually. It would be a pun on the word sore loser, but I was just like, fuck, how can I actually just... It'd be like, so does that make you a sore loser? That's so harsh.
I was trying to think of a pun on tenses. So you can never see her play. You've always sawn her. You've already saw her. There's something in there, but I didn't put it together. Well, we're coming up kind of towards the end of this episode. We've got, 10 minutes left. Is there anything, Giles, are you working on anything at the moment?
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna try and put words into my artwork.
Oh, okay.
Because I know a lot of words, and I know...
Do you know the best words?
No, unfortunately, that's Donald Trump. He has the best words, of course.
Trumpy boy has the best ones. But you've got some words.
I have some good words, and I have some different arrangements that produce excellent results on occasion.
That's the vaguest. I'm trying to think. The vaguest description of like an art form of poetry. You take some words, you can rearrange them. Anyway.
Vague but true.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Sometimes you got to be vague in order to actually say something that's true.
Anyway, I'm very excited to see your words. I like words a lot.
Oh yeah, I've been reading about how words are actually magic.
With what? So Alan Moore.
Words are power.
Yeah.
So, fuck it. Alan Moore, he can go suck.
Okay.
He can go suck a saw. Nah, I like Alan Moore. Anyway. spells and things are based on words.
Yeah.
And if you want to be more tangible with what I'm saying, if you learn certain words that are effectively like tools to help you identify your emotions or psychological processes, then you almost gain ability over that psychological process or emotion.
That's interesting.
One thing I've been realizing is that just simply reading about types of trauma or behavioral patterns, I've been able to realize that that's what I do, and then suddenly I actually have a power over that.
Yeah.
The perspective necessary for me to actually grow through it.
Somewhat of a different version of that, but I've been finding a lot of a feeling of catharsis and like a way of working through my own emotions through watching Boogie lately on Boogie 298 on YouTube. I think just because he has such a raw honesty to what he's doing. So he's going through things that I can't possibly imagine, and I've never gone through anything even like it. But somehow I think he's just good with the way he speaks about it. So I get some sort of growth out of every episode. I feel like I'm always coming away from it feeling like I have a better understanding of my own perception of the world as well as other people's, just through the use of just through hearing people talk about it.
Absolutely. And how cathartic is it to actually learn about the word catharsis?
It's a good word.
It's like, wow, now I've got a name for it. It's like that is catharsis in itself.
And then you can look for that, and that's a very important part of life, I think, is creating that tension but allowing yourself to release it. That's almost everything we do.
Whenever anyone talks about tension and release of tension, it just makes me think of ejaculating.
Yeah, it does sound a bit sexual. Anyway, Australian/French Tourist Day. Have you got anything on you want to promote to our loyal Coprolalia listeners? Cool. So anyway, next time on this
on Tuesday the 31st, I'm playing at the Recital Centre with Ensemble Density, playing semi-improvised music on the saw and electric cello, and
in Melbourne, Australia, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Not in France.
Listeners?
Yeah. Well, what should we do? We have a listener in Belarus. There you go. She probably won't make it, unfortunately. But you can find.
She can make it to the one in August.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally right.
For all of our listeners in Belarus, go to nikkiedgarartist.com. The link is in the description below, and you'll find all of Nikki's work and upcoming events, and probably pictures of her will be there as well. She's got pretty fun hair that you can enjoy looking at that.
It is pretty damn fun.
Very fun.
It's also very creative and I don't know, I'm trying to avoid using meaningless words.
Are you trying to sugar me up for something?
No way of saying that. You trying to sugar me up?
I simply feel like I don't comment on it enough. I feel like I haven't said enough nice things about it because it's always unique and new.
Ever changing. You should follow Nikki on Instagram as well. That's where you'll get more hair and earring updates and makeup. Crazy intense makeup. Imagine Queen Amidala on acid. It's kind of like that.
It's not that extreme.
Pretty crazy.
There's a little bit of acid
I did
involved.
pluck my eyebrows off. That's probably the most extreme I've done.
They're like apostrophes now.
Yeah.
It's like your nose is a quote.
Yeah.
That's good.
All right. I've just got the usual shit coming out. Oh no, I've got a new mini podcast which is just me coming out now, which will be called Wrath Weekly, and I'll just be talking about whatever's on my.
Which is just me coming out.
I'm gonna come out every week. I'm gonna come out as a new There's a new sex and a new sexual orientation and a new.
That'd be a great like weekly thing to do. That'd be funny.
Yeah, wouldn't be offensive in the slightest.
Not at all.
Nope.
Totally not.
Yeah, it's not that. It's me talking about art and mostly Kanye. So if you haven't had enough Kanye yet, tune into my podcast on YouTube or something, wherever. You'll see me on Instagram posting about it. All right. This has been Coprolalia, a podcast.
Yes.
Yep, can't think of anything.
Yep.
Can't think of a better outro than that one.
All right, goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Where's the thing?